Insomnia does strange things to a person. It turns days into one long smear of fluorescent light in airplane cabins, where you can't remember when you last really slept or why anything you own matters. That's where our narrator lives when Fight Club starts. In a nowhere life, on autopilot, buying furniture from catalogs and flying to car accidents for a job that boils human lives down to risk calculations. He works as a recall coordinator for a big car company. His job is to look at wrecks, tally the dead, and decide whether it's cheaper to fix a defect or pay off the lawsuits. He lives alone in a sleek, soulless condo and knows exactly which Scandinavian bookshelf goes with which minimalist sofa. The apartment is filled with stuff that's supposed to mean something. Designer dishes, clever lamps, a perfect rug, but there's nothing alive in it. He calls it a catalog life without ever really calling himself out loud. But he can't sleep. Nights stretch into early mornings with him staring at the ceiling, the TV flickering in the dark. Doctors shrug him off, tell him it's not serious enough for real drugs, suggest relaxation and maybe Valium. He's stuck in this waking limbo until he accidentally discovers a cure: other people's pain. On a whim, he wanders into a support group for men with testicular cancer. He doesn't have cancer and still has all his parts, but nobody checks. He sits in a circle of broken men and listens to them cry. One of them, Bob, a former bodybuilder with hormone-swollen breasts and a soft, crushed voice, wraps him in a hug big enough to smother him. Something inside the narrator cracks open. He cries for the first time in forever, sobbing into Bob's chest. And that night he sleeps like a baby. He becomes addicted, not to drugs, but to support groups. He goes to meetings for everything: parasites, blood diseases, brain tumors, alcoholism, faking whatever he needs to fake. He introduces himself with a different name each time and lets strangers' stories wash over him until his own anxiety quiets. The groups give him permission to feel small and fragile. Everyone thinks he's dying, so they hold nothing back. It's morbid and dishonest, but it works. The insomnia disappears. Then she shows up and ruins everything. Her name is Marla Singer, and she's doing the same thing he is. He sees her across a room full of hunched shoulders, smoking and staring at the floor like she owns the place. She doesn't have parasites. She doesn't have cancer. She's a tourist just like him, and the moment he realizes that, the illusion breaks. His tears feel fake again. The release is gone. The insomnia returns. He confronts her in a hallway, outraged that she's invading his stolen therapy. She throws his hypocrisy right back at him. They argue and eventually negotiate a truce. They'll divide the week's schedule and share the groups without crossing paths. Marla wanders back into her own kind of chaos, and he slips back into his half-functional routine, more frayed than before. Then one night, on a flight back from yet another accident site, he meets Tyler Durden. Tyler is everything he isn't: confident, magnetic, unapologetic. He sits in the next seat, making dry, cutting jokes about single-serving friends and the way consumer culture sells identity to lonely people on planes. Tyler makes soap for a living, he says, but the way he talks about it makes it sound like a philosophy instead of a job. He jokes, he pokes, he stares straight through the narrator's polite mask and seems to see the emptiness underneath. They part ways at the baggage claim. No promises, just a strange sense of unfinished business. When the narrator gets home, his condo is gone. Literally gone. Fire trucks and police tape, burned out windows, glass on the pavement, a gas leak, they tell him. Everything he owned, his suits, his dishes, his carefully chosen furniture, has exploded into dust. Standing in the glow of emergency lights, holding his suitcase and nothing else, he realizes he has nowhere to go. He ends up at a payphone, dialing the only person he can think of: Tyler Durden. Tyler answers. They meet at a bar with sticky floors and neon beer signs, talking over cheap drinks about what it means to lose everything you own. Tyler says, almost casually, that it's only when you've hit bottom and lost your attachments that you're really free. Outside in the parking lot, the night thick around them, Tyler asks him for a favor. Hit me. Not in a playful way, not a light tap, but a real punch. The narrator resists, confused, embarrassed. They dance around it, laughing until he gives in. He swings and connects with Tyler's face. It hurts his hand. Tyler hits him back. It hurts even more. They keep going. People from the bar wander out to watch. There's no grudge, no reason, just violence. Pure and strange and honest. It feels, for the first time in a long time, like something real is happening to him. They start meeting regularly in the bar's basement. Other men show up. Rules are laid down, simple and strict. No talking about the club outside the club. You fight until you can't. Two men enter a circle and beat each other bloody, then shake hands and hold each other up the stairs afterward. It's primal and stupid and addictive. For guys who spend their days in offices and cubicles, being anonymous and polite, these nights become the only time they feel alive. The narrator moves in with Tyler because he has no home, and Tyler's got a house, if you can call it that. It's a rotting old place on a dead-end street, all creaky floors and peeling wallpaper, water that comes out brown, and holes in the roof where rain leaks through. It feels like the opposite of his old condo, which might be exactly why he stays. The house becomes their headquarters, their experiment in living outside the glossy catalog world. Marla drifts back into his life by accident. One night she overdoses on pills and calls him. He stares at the phone ringing, frozen, unwilling to get sucked into her chaos. Eventually, Tyler picks up instead. The next morning, the narrator wakes up to the sound of loud, wild sex and finds Marla in the kitchen, wrapped in Tyler's sheets. She's now sleeping with his charming, dangerous roommate and acting like the narrator doesn't exist. Every night, he hears them through the thin walls. Every day, Tyler pretends nothing unusual is happening. The narrator sees and pretends not to care. Fight Club spreads. Men leave the basement with bruised faces and lit up eyes and tell nobody, just wait for next week. More show up anyway. The bar's basement can't contain it, so chapters quietly start in other places. The fights are still just fights, but something in the air shifts as Tyler's speeches get harsher and more ambitious. He talks about consumer culture like it's a disease, about how men have been raised to chase things they don't need, and how only pain and risk can strip that conditioning away. At home, Tyler escalates his lessons. He gives the narrator a chemical burn on his hand, pressing lye into his skin until it sizzles and bubbles, pinning his arm in place while the pain climbs into something near unbearable. He tells him to stay present, not to meditate it away, to really feel it. This is the first step to letting go, he insists. No anesthetic, no easy escape. Just pain and the slow realization that he's willing to endure it. What started as bare-knuckle therapy morphs into something bigger and darker. Project Mayhem. Tyler turns their ragged army of disaffected men into a paramilitary organization. They shave their heads, wear the same clothes, live by strict rules. They're given homework assignments that range from vandalism to sabotage. Smiling corporate billboards get defaced. Corporate art installations get blown up. A coffee shop's windows shatter in a perfectly timed explosion. The men treat it like religion. Tyler treats it like revolution. The narrator is no longer just a guy in a basement fight. He's second in command to a cult leader he doesn't fully understand. The house fills up with recruits sleeping on the floor, doing chores, and waiting for Tyler to give them purpose. The narrator feels both important and increasingly out of control. The thing he helped start is no longer his. The line between prank and terrorism gets thinner. There are plans involving explosives, stolen chemical ingredients, and targets that aren't just symbols anymore. When one mission goes wrong and a member of Project Mayhem is killed, the narrator watches the way the others react. They chant the dead man's name, as if he were a martyr. It's only when he gets a good look at the body that the narrator realizes who it is. Bob, his old support group friend with the soft voice and long hugs. Now he's just another faceless soldier in Tyler's war, reduced to a number and a slogan. That's the moment something snaps. The narrator wants out, or at least wants to slow things down. He tries to shut Project Mayhem down, but the men just stare at him like he's speaking a language they don't recognize. To them, it doesn't matter what he says. Their loyalty is to Tyler Durden. The problem is, Tyler disappears. One day he's there, the next he's gone. No goodbye, no note. Just an empty presence where the center used to be. The narrator panics. He starts tracing Tyler's steps, calling numbers and visiting cities where he thinks Tyler might have gone. In every place, there's a fight club in a basement, a group of men who treat him with respect and recognition. They call him Sir. They call him Mr. Durden. At first, he thinks it's a mistake. Then he hears stories about Tyler giving orders, sleeping in certain rooms, saying certain things, and the timeline starts to twist in his head. People tell him they've met him before, that he recruited them. He remembers being there, but not like they describe. Slowly, horribly, he pieces it together. Tyler Durden isn't another man. Tyler Durden is him. Or rather, he is Tyler when he isn't himself. The insomnia, the blank spots in his memory, the times he woke up in strange places, all of it adds up. Tyler was never separate. Tyler was the part of him that broke loose and started living a parallel life, while the rest of him was still trying to be a polite employee with a nice condo. The charismatic leader, the anarchist, the lover of Marla, the architect of Project Mayhem, he's been doing all of it and not remembering. Once he sees it, he can't unsee it. Tyler appears in his hotel room like a ghost he created, admitting the truth with a kind of smug clarity. They argue, but it's like watching a man fighting his own reflection. Tyler tells him the big plan is already in motion. The explosives are ready. The targets are set. Debt records, credit card companies, the financial backbone of the city, everything is about to go up in smoke. It won't just be a prank this time. It will be a reset. The narrator tries to undo what he's done while he was Tyler. He races from building to building, trying to warn security, pulling fire alarms, searching for bombs. Everywhere he goes, he runs into more men from Project Mayhem who look at him like he's the Messiah who suddenly lost his faith. They block him gently, respectfully, like they're ignoring a tantrum from a beloved teacher. The machine he built won't stop just because its creator is scared. He runs to Marla, dragging her into the mess he tried to keep her out of. He tries to explain that he's not who she thinks he is, that the man she's been sleeping with and the man standing in front of her are the same and not the same. She looks at him like he's insane, because from the outside, he is. Still, there's something in his voice that makes her listen. He sends her away on a bus, trying to save at least one person from whatever's coming. The final confrontation happens in a high-rise office building with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the city skyline. He stands there with Tyler, who is also him, looking out at the buildings that are wired to explode. Tyler is calm, ecstatic even, convinced that collapse is the only way to erase the debt and give people a fresh start. The narrator is terrified of the chaos and of what it says about who he really is. They fight, but when security cameras play back the footage, it's just him beating himself up, throwing his own body into glass and concrete. It's a brutally literal version of the internal war he's been fighting all along. Realizing he can't win by punching a man who doesn't exist separately from him, he switches tactics. Tyler only lives in his head. If he wants Tyler gone, he has to make a different kind of choice. He puts a gun in his mouth, looks straight at Tyler, and pulls the trigger. The bullet tears through his cheek and out the back, dropping him to the floor. Tyler, with a shocked look that mirrors his own, crumples and disappears. The alternate self dies because the part of him that believed in Tyler's total destruction finally rejects it. Somehow, incredibly, the narrator survives. The gunshot doesn't kill him. It leaves a ragged hole in his face and a scar that won't ever fully heal. But he's still there. Just him. Tyler is gone. Outside the windows, the bombs do what they were built to do. One building erupts in controlled demolition, then another, then another. The skyline falls in silent, slow motion, a row of financial towers folding into themselves like cardboard. Sirens wail faintly in the distance, but up in the office it's quiet. Marla is there now, brought to him by the same men who used to follow his orders as Tyler. She looks at him, at the hole in his face, at the collapsing buildings, trying to map this new version of him onto the chaos she survived. He reaches for her hand. She takes it. Two exhausted people stand side by side, watching the world change because of decisions one of them made when he was someone else. Fight Club is loud and ugly and strange, full of broken noses and smashed teeth and jokes about furnishing your apartment. But underneath all the noise, it's about identity and how far a person will go to escape the version of themselves they can't stand. The narrator starts out trying to soothe his pain with consumer goods and stolen grief, then hands the keys over to a fantasy of freedom that doesn't care who gets hurt. Tyler is his rebellion with the volume turned up too high, fun until the buildings start to fall. In the end, after all the fights and schemes and explosions, the most radical thing he does isn't blowing anything up. It's taking responsibility. He chooses to kill the part of himself that wanted to watch the world burn and live with the pieces that are left, scarred and confused but real. He stands there with Marla, holding her hand in front of a wall of falling glass and concrete, not as a revolutionary or a messiah, but as a man finally awake in his own life, watching the consequences of who he was and trying to decide who he's going to be next.